Hi, it's Jill Sprott here with this week's Storytellers video from Two Peas in a Bucket. Time. Whether it is measured in years, months, weeks, days, hours, or minutes, it moves forward. And the way that we regard that movement is basically the way that we regard life itself. We scrapbookers know this all too well, and one of the reasons why we scrapbook is out of a desire to freeze time, if only for a moment, in order to preserve a memory even as it has passed us by. Our focus this week is using time to help to tell the story on a layout. In this video, I'll share with you how to shape that story not just through words, but through symbols and other elements that evoke time, that relentless beat to which our lives keep rhythm. I built my layout on a sheet of souvenir shop paper from the Crepe Paper Open Road collection. I love the ledger pattern and its hints of pink and yellow. And then I printed out 2 photo strips, each of which contains photos from our first week of summer. They capture the way that we spent our time. The colors are an important part of this layout as they help to create a summertime feel. I drew my inspiration from the June 2 Peas mood board and its bright Technicolor hues. These colors can also be found in the Weekday Square Printable from Blue Star Design at 2 Peas in a Bucket. I resized the squares in Photoshop and used the copy and paste functions to fill a page with the repeated design. I then printed it onto vellum. I so love the effect. I then pulled together a bunch of products that had some kind of connection to time. For instance, there are these clocks from Crepe Paper and My Mind's Eye. The Milk Money collection from October Afternoon also has lots of different clocks and time elements in it. It's in the stamps and the stickers and in the papers. There's also this washi tape from KI Memories, which remains in limited quantities now at 2 Peas. There are a bunch of calendar papers that you can find from Bella Boulevard, Basic Gray, and L's Studio. And then from Chic Tags and 2 Peas, Flare. That reminds me of summertime in lots of its different forms. And then there are even more tags from Chic Tags. And the finishing piece is wood veneer from 2 Peas in a Bucket. Once my supplies were gathered, I turned my attention toward assembling the page. I started by adding a little piece of double stick tape to the back of the vellum, knowing that later on I would just add machine stitching, and that's what would really hold the elements onto the page. Behind each of the photo strips, I added 2 rectangular sheets of paper to create photo mats. The first pattern is from Crepe Paper. It's from the mixed tape paper in the Boys Rule collection. And then the second that I added was a really bright, summery, sunshiny pattern. It's called Picturesque. It's from the Recorded collection from Webster's Pages. Onto this basic foundation, I started to add other summery elements. For instance, this journaling card from Crepe Paper's Style Board collection, onto which I plan to add the journaling later. And then I had this wood veneer sunshine from 2 Peas in a Bucket, and a few of these Cloud9 mini icons from Chic Tags. Alright, we've got the sun, we've got the clouds, and so now let's get back to this idea of time passing as the sun is passing overhead. So here I'm adding 5 different days of the week tabs. They're stickers from October Afternoon, and I'm just alternating front, back. And the tabs make sense as all these pictures were taken over the course of a week. So they run Monday through Friday. There's no Saturday or Sunday tab. That would have been great, but you make do. I then located my handy-dandy circle cutter, and then I found patterns that contain lots of different clocks on them, and I started to trim around them, just making a collection of circles from various patterns. As I trimmed circle after circle, after circle, after circle, I kept in mind that the whole theme was not just summertime, but summer time. The idea that time seems to move a little differently during the summer. And so I wanted to reinforce that by continually repeating clocks and other time references throughout the layout. When I saw this Jilly Bean Soup pattern paper, I realized that I could also include little references to how we've been spending our time. For instance, shopping and listening to music and laughing. So the icons on this pattern paper are actually really great for that. After trimming and gathering the circles, I went back to working on the layout, starting with this calendar card from Basic Gray. When it comes to layout design, I think I have two modes. The first is build mode and the second is tuck mode. So build mode was done here. I had created a basic design. Tuck mode is where I take all of these little elements, the bits and pieces, and basically just tuck them in. And that's what I'm doing here. Taking the clocks and other elements that I had trimmed and finding little places for them peeking out behind papers and photos. When it comes to tuck mode, there's a lot of trial and error. It just comes down to moving things around until they click into place, until things feel right. As I added more elements to the page, I became concerned that I might not have enough room for the journaling, and so I took a detour just to work on that journaling. To make sure that I could fit the journaling on that journaling card, gosh, I'm saying journaling a lot, sorry, journaling, I decided that it would be best just to print out the journaling. See, I did it again. So what I did was I ran it through my printer, placed some double stick tape on the back of the card, and then ran it through the printer again. This way I could ensure that there'd be enough room and that I could keep tucking away without interfering with the actual words on the page. The journaling is about summertime and how it's different from the regular time of the year. It reads, 5:30 a.m. usually finds my alarm clock blaring, but not in the summer. 4 o'clock p.m. usually finds me fuming in traffic, but not in the summer. 5 o'clock p.m. usually finds me scrambling to figure out a dinner option, but not in the summer. See the pattern here? 10:30 p.m. usually finds me yawning, but not in the summer. At this time of year, time is measured not by hours and minutes and seconds, but by the feel of the air, the angle of sunlight, the coolness of a breeze. Summertime is the best time, when my usually overscheduled self surrenders to what feels natural. So with that in mind, the journaling done, what I decided to do was take those two clocks, that darker navy blue one and then the one without hands, and put them side by side, just to point out that difference between regular time, the clock with hands, and summertime, the clock without hands. And then I got back to tucking. So I'm going to speed this up for you just to show you really quickly the rest of the process here. I added elements like chipboard hearts and more clocks and more clocks and more clocks, and flare buttons or badges to the left and the right sides of the layout. So if you notice, I kind of stagger them. So they're not in straight lines going all the way down. Some of them are out and some of them are in. They just kind of go back and forth, but they fill the space quite nicely. After adding a couple of pieces of 2P's flare, I then included a strip of Days of the Week tape from KI Memories. The layout was nearly complete, but it still needed a title, and so I decided to have a little messy fun with the letters in the title. The idea was to call it Summertime, but rather than use it as one word, summertime, I really wanted to emphasize that idea of summer time. So I decided to separate the two words. To really emphasize that time component, I took a clock stamp from October afternoon and I stamped using black ink repeatedly over TIME. And so you can't really see it too closely here, but you can see it in the detail pics later in this video. But the numbers from the clock are all overlapping there on the word time. The other part of the title would be the word summer. And so here I used Kenzie letters, they're American Crafts letters, and I decided instead of stamping on them, I would add lots of summery colors, kind of stripes along the way. And so I took my ink daubers from Hero Arts, and I started with blue at the top, and I just colored the very tops of the letters. And then I added Tide Pool, and then under that, pink, and then the last finishing touch there was yellow. And so those are really summery colors. For me, I'm always reminded of eating shave ice, Matsumoto's in the North Shore here on Oahu. And so those are the colors of my shave ice, and so those are the colors of summer for me. So letter by letter, it all came together, and that's it. Summertime captured on the page. Through the clocks, through the calendar, through the days of the week, through the words, and through the images, time is clearly present on this layout. It isn't just helping to tell the story, it is the story. And isn't that true in some sense on all of our layouts? How can we as scrapbookers not be always and ever conscious of the tick tock that motivates us to click the shutter, to put pen to paper, or to live in the moment in the mindset of making it matter? We may not be able to stop time, but we can change our mindset about it. I'm reminded of Andrew Marvell, who wrote, "Though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we will make him run." Thanks for joining me for this week's Storytellers.